Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is DJ and this is the Restaurant Growth Podcast presented by 7 Shifts. On this show, we sit down with the best minds in the hospitality business, bringing you new insights and big ideas to help your restaurant business grow. I had the pleasure of chatting with Mijo Alanis, the founder of Beyond Juicery and Eatery, for this episode of the show. Mijo tells the story of Beyond Juicery from the way beginning of his career, and we got to chatting about how they've grown through franchising over the past few years, up to like 50-something locations. It's crazy. They're killing it. And Mijo also gets into what he calls these bus tub moments, which are insights that have helped him stay ahead of the curve of what customer wants throughout his career. There's like 3 of them that he gets into that really defined Beyond Juice and what they offer. It's an inspiring episode with a lot of great insights and stories, and I can't wait for you to join the conversation. So with that, here's Mijo. Hey Mijo, how are you today?
Fantastic. How you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
That's great.
Yeah. So really just to kind of kick it right off, how did you get started in the restaurant industry and, what's your story?
Well, it's if you got a few minutes, I'll tell you. But
we got all the time in the world.
All right. So I started washing dishes when I was 15 years old. I think it was the second job I applied to. I got the job. The whole purpose of the job was so I can have enough money to buy a car, which that car cost $400.
Wow.
And I started washing dishes, and when I was back there, I learned a lot washing dishes, and I still use I still use those job skills that I learned even to today.
Yep.
So when I was back there washing dishes, I realized that I actually tried to be the best dishwasher there was. I tried to clear all the dishes before any new dishes came, before any dishes get in the bus tub. And I worked really hard. I'd come home at night, my fingers were all pruned up, my feet were soaking wet. And but as I was washing dishes to the other side, I'd see this prep cook. The prep cook would come in, and his fingers were never wet. He never seemed to have a kind of a stressful job. So I actually went over there and I learned his job. And before you know it, I was promoted from dishwasher to prep cook. And then when I was a prep cook, I was watching the guys in the kitchen, and I realized those guys had it pretty easy, and they got to talk to the servers all the time. So I went in there, and on my off time, I learned how to cook. And before you know it, I think I was 16, and I was in the kitchen cooking. I was cooking on Friday nights, and then on Saturday and Sunday mornings breakfast, which was big boy, which those were the busiest times to work.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the shift, I'd go back and watch the waitresses count their money, realize they were making enough money in one day as I was making all week. I just kept that in mind. By the time I graduated from high school, I had they offered me a manager position. I did not accept it. I started college. I used to play baseball, and when I didn't succeed at that, I went back and I took them up on the job. And as I grew through my career, I started working in every position of the restaurant. I worked as bartender, server, manager, general manager, opened new stores. Then I tried to do the college again. It was up until probably 1994 where I was working in Scottsdale, and this girl came in at 1 minute to close, her and her friend. And I learned a lesson there. At 1 minute to close, you treat every customer the same, whether they're 1 minute after open or 1 minute before close. And when I got done waiting on that table, I asked her out, and she actually showed up to where we were supposed to meet afterwards. Come to find out, her family was in the restaurant business, and I believe that's the key of what happened. She was going to school. This was in Arizona, and she was going to graduate school out there. We met up, we hooked up, and when she graduated, she couldn't find a job. And I still to this day believe it's conspiracy theory, but back in 1997, she got a job offer here in Michigan.
Mm.
And she said, "Hey, let's move back and let's move back to Michigan you can move back to Michigan with me and work for a year. I'll get enough time and I would be able to get a job someplace else and we can move back." I said, "Sure, but I'm only going to go for 1 year."
Right.
That was 22 years ago. Anyways, she her father was in the restaurant business. I said, "The one thing is I'm not working for your father."
Yeah.
And this is okay. And a couple months went past and he actually asked me to come work for him. Work a day for him. I worked one day and oh my God, it was a mom and pop restaurant. I've never worked for a mom and pop before.
Yeah.
And they're handwrite checks and just doing things that, like back in the old days. We got done with that day. It was a disaster. One of those, really busy days. And he asked me afterwards, he said, "Hey, you want to come back tomorrow?" I said, "No, not really." He asked me again and I accepted. And I'd have to say that's the day that actually changed my life.
Wow.
Because as far as my career is concerned, because he taught me what it was like to stick the key in the door in the morning and open it.
Yeah.
And he taught me what it was like to lock it at night. Basically open to close every day. They're like the restaurant business doesn't shut off. And, he taught me what it was like, what it costs for the lights to come on, the napkins and straws, insurance, payroll tax, depreciation, you name it. Like you knew everything about the restaurant business, which I didn't learn working in the corporate world.
Yeah.
But what he taught me more than anything is he taught me how to have a family life with the restaurant.
Mm.
And the family embraced the fact that they had to work and they knew that was more important than anything else. We were here in Detroit, and in 2001, the Lions have always played home football games, and that was in Pontiac. In 2001, they moved to downtown Detroit, which was 0.7 of a mile from the stadium. And we embraced the Lions, and we opened on Thanksgiving Day.
Wow.
Today, it's still a tradition, but because of that, I'm in more Thanksgiving Day photos with other families than I am with my own. So, but back around 2000, I started noticing people throwing away hamburger buns and French fries. I saw it in the bus tub, and I would ask the servers, why are they not eating their hamburger buns and French fries? Now you got to rewind back to 2000. Like, the way that we eat today is not the same as we ate back then. And we were trying to get more plate coverage. And I knew if I looked in the bus tub and see what people throwing away, because 9 out of 10 people ain't going to tell you what they don't like. They just don't like it and they don't come back. And I try to anticipate that. So I went to the tables and I started asking. I heard things, hey, can we substitute sliced tomatoes for French fries? Can we get cottage cheese? Can I not have a bun? And I'm like, why? They're like, well, when you eat all these carbs, you don't feel good after lunch. Yeah. I'm like, really? It started hitting me. Pam and I still had a place out in Arizona, and we'd go back, and there was this mountain, and it was called Camelback Mountain. And we love to, by the way, just so you know, today is my 20th year wedding anniversary, Cinco de Mayo.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. We got married in Sydney, Australia. And, but my team just made a video for us where they all said something. They said happy anniversary and did something. And I just got done watching it before I got on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
So, and there was this picture of her and I on top of Camelback Mountain, all sweaty shirts and everything. But we would climb this mountain and come down. And at the bottom of that mountain, or really close to it, there was this little juice bar that we'd go to. Mm. And they have smoothies and juices. I couldn't tell you the name of it, But I did know one thing, that I knew that when I drank something from there or purchased something from there, I felt different.
Yeah.
There was something that made me feel, I felt like I was doing something good, like not having a Coke or I like iced tea with sugar in it, or I just felt good.
Yeah.
And then I would come back to Michigan, and that seeing more and more of the people trying to substitute side salad. And then I'm thinking of this juice bar, and I'm driving home, and it's just brewing in the back of my head. I'm driving home, and all of a sudden it hit me. There's no place to buy a banana in the fast food industry. You can't even get a banana. Yep. I drove past Arby's, Wendy's, McDonald's, Jack in the Box. This was before Wendy's had salads. And I'm like, oh my God, there's not a place to buy a banana. And then that little juice bar popped into my head. And that's the moment that the idea for Beyond Juice was born. Beyond Juicery and Eatery was born. And we took every bit of money that we had. We came up with a concept, built it out. This was in 2005. So there was a period of time between 2000 and 2005. It took us to actually get it open. We got it open, and the first customer walked through the door, and they ordered $4.25 smoothie and turned around and walked out. And I was like, oh my goodness, what did we do? Because in the bar restaurant industry, no one comes in and has one. They have one after another. They have an appetizer. They come in for, they're not there for 45 seconds. They're there for, 45 minutes to an hour. And by the way, my other restaurant, they wait 45 minutes to an hour just to get into the place, but it's a different story.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. So as we were growing, I would have to say we were probably about 3 to 4 years ahead of our time. And, we had just maybe 20 to 40 customers a day coming in. I knew we had a good product. I knew it tasted good. It was just a matter of getting the product into people's mouths. And as of this day, that is the number one marketing tool that we have, is get the product in their mouth.
Yeah.
I put an A-frame out on the sidewalk, and I turned it toward, I put it right in the middle. And the only way that they could turn was towards the door. And when they turned towards the door, I got eye contact, and we were like, hey, would you like to try a smoothie? Hey, would you like to come in and try one of our juices? So we had samples, and we were giving it out. Right around 2008, we started doing really well. And I started getting the knock on the door about, hey, how do I purchase one of these?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's one's not for sale. And I just kept asking and asking and asking. 2012, 2013, we started getting a really good push for bottled juice. And it wasn't bottled juice. It was actually the same tool that I use as the dishwasher. I come in and notice what the customers were doing. I came in, and there was a customer that we had an ice chest on the floor, and they were making 6 large juices to go, which we did fresh juices with the machine, the centrifugal juicer.
Yeah.
And I asked the barista, I said, what are you doing? She goes, this person ordered six juices. I'm like, it's like $50.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. So I went out to the customer, and I said, hey, can I ask you a few questions? I said, sure. I said, you can get 6. Is this for more people? No, it's for me. I said, why you got 6? He said, well, I'm going up north. And I'm like, yeah. And he says, there's no place to buy juice up there. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, doesn't the juice go bad? He says, no, it hasn't. He says, that's 2. I have 2 a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He says, I'll see you guys back on Monday. I said, interesting. Again, flying back out to Arizona, I opened the in-flight magazine, and on the middle cup, in the middle, on a full-page ad, is a bottle of juice. And the light bulb went off. I'm like, bottled juice. That, when you're looking, I started seeing bottled juice. So in 2015, we created our bottled juice line. And when we created the bottled juice line, we learned a lot, but we now have a packaged product that we can sell retail. And that's evolved. I can go into that, but that's a older process. But We were making it fresh, and we were making it fresh out of the back of one of my other restaurants. We'd go in at 5 o'clock in the morning and juice all the juice, put them in bottles, distribute in stores daily.
Yeah.
Around 2015, they knocked for people wanting to buy this. Yeah. And when I talked to the attorney, they all he could say was franchise, franchise, franchise. So, and I'm like, huh. So I went to an IFA, which is a International Franchise Association conference. And when I walked into that room, I want to say my life changed. My life changed because I walked in there and I met other like-minded people like me.
Yeah.
And how they have taken their business to a new level. We came back and I said, okay, we're going to open 4 more stores, one of them being a commissary retail outlet, so we can prove that we can handle building stores. We're going to learn that all there is about building, and we're going to create the relationships between us and each of the stores and build out a corporate team in order to start selling franchise. We did that. We opened 4 stores in 14 months, and we were off to the races. And in 2018, we went through the FDD. We got our franchise agreement done. We got our training manuals done. We created the connections. We built out customer service, and we onboarded our first franchisee in 2018. And by the end of 2019, I want to say we had 6 franchises, and then we went to 14 the next year. And as of today, we have 38 open stores with 54. There's a total of 54 in the works. So there's 16 under construction. We're in 2 different states, and 2 weeks ago, we signed our first 2-store deal in Naples, Florida. And we're negotiating real estate pieces right now. Connected the supply chain to go down there. We manufacture about 35% of our products right now, with focus on getting more and more of it. Because as we grow, we're realizing, especially in today's supply chain, the more control you are of your product, the more successful you can be, as well as not having disruption because of substitutions in today's market, which really cleared it up. I want to say we're just a little bit ahead of our time. Even when it came to that, is owning our own manufacturing, and now we're partnering with a distribution as well, that we're the number one customer. During that time, I did take on a partner. That partner is also part owner of the DWC brand, and which is Detroit Wing Company. They have, I think, 18 locations with 36. Brainstorming and thinking about how do we get to the next level. We actually had combined forces, and we just closed on our new corporate headquarters, which is 45,000 square feet.
Wow.
Where our new commissary will be. I say, when you have a salad or you have a product or a wrap, anybody can get the same ingredients. It's that sauce or the flavor profile that you put on it. Yeah. And that's exactly what DWC does as well, is they have a unique flavor profile, as well as for us, our unique flavor profile. We manufacture our own cilantro sauce that goes on our cilantro chicken. It's a little bit spicy. We have our hummus, which is olive oil, no preservatives. Nice. Our salsa is a fresh product that's made, and then HPP, which is high pressure processing. And then we have the best product in the world, which is bottled juice. It's all organic. You can't get any healthier than just drinking straight vegetable or fruit juice.
Yeah.
I would have to say that differentiates us from any of our competitors. Like, we love having the core value. One of them is do what others won't, and soon we can do what others can't, as a one of our core values. So we march down that path every day, and and the point in my life is I'm looking for that, just like I was when I was a dishwasher, is what's that next step? Yeah. How do I get to know that next level? How do I become a 75 unit franchisee owner? How do I become a 100? How do I work in multi-states? What are the things that we need? So I'm working in the 6 to 12 to 18 months from today. And then the corporate team that we built out is working in the day-to-day. I have regular meetings where we keep the pulse. We created a basically issues. How do we fix the issues? How do we get decisions made? And how do we move forward? And how do we create targets and actually hit them? Yeah. And it's really cool, really neat to watch how the team grows and how we actually hit those milestones and celebrate with them.
So when you went to that franchising conference, you just had one location at the time?
Yes, I had one location at the time.
So it's just the original Beyond Juice?
Yeah, it's the original, yep.
Wow. So, I mean, you're growing super fast. I mean, it's been just four years and you're already at this point. I think you said 38 units with a bunch more on the way. How do you do that? How do you grow so fast and prepare for that? One, without neglecting the original locations and the existing businesses, but also what's been the key for you to keep consistency across all the businesses, especially with a fresh product like that? You know, you're not shipping in frozen stuff like some of the fast food places. It seems like everything's made in-house, especially with the fresh stuff. So how do you do that?
We got eyes on it. We have dedicated people that are actually, that's their sole job. And my food came out, and on that food was a product that was made basically 300 miles away. The box, the bag, the wrap, the stuff inside there. And I drove through, and it was like a surreal moment for me, because I then was heading home and I punched in my home and it was 273 miles. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow. Just went through a drive-through, picked up my food, that created the whole thing. We created the whole thing, and now it's in a different state.
Yeah.
And I went through a drive-through because it was the first time, or pickup lane. And I'm like, this is so cool, on an app, on a device that we created as well, that basically helped us get through COVID, because we were able to stay very close to our customers.
Yeah.
And we were probably a couple years ahead of our time, because we only had 4 locations at the time to actually have an app. It was, I would say, uncalled for, but at that point, very necessary in what we had, and we were able to adjust really quickly. Yeah. And we were able to speak with our customers a lot during that time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just like you said, always just kind of being a little bit a step ahead of the curve. And I think it's that bus tub, kind of looking in the bus tub mentality that you have, noticing things as before people may even notice them themselves, and getting into things before it's a trend, right? My next question really is, I talked about some customers, and I'm curious to know, you've grown significantly through one of the toughest labor situations or labor markets in hospitality the past few years, especially the past 2 years. How have you fared through that, and how do you approach employee engagement? I saw in an interview that you did, you mentioned that your team is what sets you apart, so curious to know what's your approach to that.
So, one, you have to take care of the employees. Fresh is our focus, and people are our purpose. It's been our tagline for a long time. The people part of it is you really have to listen to them and understand their needs. I've realized that, I don't want to say money's never been the reason. I don't think money is the only reason that people work for you. It goes back to that drinking that juice for the first time, it's how we make you feel.
Yeah.
And if I can make you feel good about yourself, or I don't know how many, I think I've had 4 employees of mine that started with me 20 years ago, or 15, 12, that have gone on to open their own restaurants. Wow. And what we provided for them is that opportunity and that scale. I want people doing what they want to do. If you want to, if you want to have beyond as your career, then there's a path, and there's other people that went before you and have done it. And if you don't, you want it to be a great stepping stone and just learn values of life, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
And as long as we know what your plans are, because I love seeing people succeed at their goals. I love people actually having a goal,
Yeah.
like having a goal and then talking about it. That's what I like about the franchise business is talking with an entrepreneur, which going into that IFA was talking with people that had the wildest dreams out there, but they
Yeah.
weren't dreams. It was the journey. They're on a journey to a destination that they've already created. And to me, that kind of stuff excites me more than anything, is because not everyone is able to manifest a dream and then go out and set goals and milestones to get to where they want to be. So
Right.
in the franchise world, I love sitting with people that there's a blank canvas and you create something, and then this whole massive movement turns the switch on, and they start heading that way. And it's this little Lego set, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is kind of funny. So my wife hasn't seen it yet, but we were married in Australia, and our wedding picture was with the Sydney Opera House in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought her a Lego set, which has got like 5,000 Legos in it, which is going to take forever to build.
Yeah.
But once it's built, it's solid. It's a rock. And that's the kind it's kind of the way that Beyond is. You asked how we're faring through this labor. Back in the day, we would have, I don't know, 12, 14 employees working. I think that during a busy shift. Today we probably have 6 to 8. And we're talking the busiest stores in the company because our corporate team, and we recognized the first thing that we said was, where can we cut on labor, and not cut people out, but create items that we can be made simpler. From the commissary, we were able to make things to where they don't have to mix it at the store, and we're able to put it into the actual containers and be able to drop it in, make things easier. New menu items, instead of taking 2 minutes to make, now take 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Right.
Cutting down the number of SKUs we have. And that was really hard for me, is like, because each and every one of those ingredients is near and dear to my heart. But numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And actually recognizing, I'm like, okay, we're gonna make a switch. I'm leaving to Mexico. Don't tell me what anybody says. But that was a joke. But we would do things, and we would, and when we would talk about it, negotiate, and come back and say, okay, we need to add this thing back on. It was really a product that we needed. So, and we're constantly doing that. We're redefining the menu, and without the consumer noticing the differences. But I would say, in the most part, it's not about taking away; it's enhancing what we do. And I go into the franchisees, and when we field test and pilot test these, we ask lots and lots of questions before we roll it out to the entire brand, and hopefully we get it right. And not saying we get it right all the time, but when we get home runs, we get home runs.
Yeah. So just kind of going into that and saying, you're necessarily not cutting labor by cutting people, but making the jobs a little bit better, or making them easier, or making them, just more effective.
Correct. And being able to, like, almost, I don't know, you see the movie The Founder?
Yeah.
All right. So when they redesigned their kitchen on the floor, and they were basically doing the orchestra, we didn't actually do that, although that was brought up many, many times. But we did that in, like, okay, let's move the blenders over here, and let's move this piece of equipment over here. Let's move the pickup shelf here. So what COVID did was give us, and with the labor shortage, it started making our minds think in different ways to, like, okay, what used to be okay to walk 5, it's like, how do we do it where we do steps?
Right.
How do we do it with 2 steps? And at the end of the day, we may save an hour. by the time, but the next iteration is how do we save another hour and another hour? I do know based upon my conversations with my franchisees, this majority of them got in because there's things of like, hey, let's put a kiosk out there. And when I brought that up, which thinking that would be a great idea, we just completely removed the cashier. And the franchisee, I remember one of them, she's like, Mijo, I got into this business because of people. I want to be talking to the people. I love sharing stories with them. I'm like, and I remembered and went back to sitting down in the interview. It was like before I brought him on as franchisees, I'm like, that we aligned on that value. And I'm like, you're right. Like, so keeping that customer conversation in there, I call it saying hi and goodbye to every single customer comes in, asking them, you know, how their day is, and getting their name and getting their order right. I believe sets us apart, and I believe that when it's genuine, it's real. That's how I make you feel when you come in. Once they cross the threshold in the door, it's your responsibility to connect with them. And because right now in today's world, which was way back then, I don't know, it just seems more important right now.
Yeah.
But because I think that in today's world, I think it's acceptable on most brands that they don't care about the customer, and the guest experience is fading right now in everything. I got a car that's been in service at the service department for 2 days that was supposed to be done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they don't care how I feel because I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And I believe that when we can make you feel different, just like our product can, it leaves that impression on you. And by the way, the product's good, that the next time when you wake up and that light bulb goes off, I'm hungry, I want to try to have a little bit good for myself. I want to go to Beyond Juicery and Eatery.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing, customers and employees, just making them feel valued and making them feel special that separates you.
Yeah. We had one employee, the HR department came and said, hey, you know, Burger King's paying them, you know, X amount of dollars and we're going to lose them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, explain to them who they're working with versus what we're working with here. And like, if you just go on with people that work just for the money, you're going to find out really quickly they don't have your back.
Yeah.
They don't care about you. And sure enough, they were gone for 2 months and they came back and they're like, you know, wow, the work environment, there was a sacrifice, and, you know, selling burgers and fries all day versus we're selling happiness and, you know, enjoying our guests, because our guests, they pay a premium for coming to us, and why not give them that extra value that the other places won't? It doesn't really cost us anything to smile,
right,
and say hi.
Yeah, and make people feel valued and special. You know, we're almost out of time, but my last question really here is: have you had any bus tub moments lately that you're thinking about? Something you can't get out of your head?
As a matter of fact, I do. Yeah. It's more on the lines of where we're going to in our food.
Okay.
I believe the transparency and food is going to become mandatory in the near future. And I say this because when you look at kids that are 10 to 15 years old, and I know when I was 10 to 15 years old, I didn't know anything about food, and the kids 10 to 15 years old are saying things like carbohydrate, sugar content, red dyes, and I just think like, okay, wow, like we're a society that rapidly adapts to our environment, and when they start asking those questions at such a young age, and being one of the first to be able to, I mean, think about it. Like, you have a chicken breast, it's fresh, it's never frozen, no preservatives in it. And then being able to go onto the website and find out where it was grown, what it was fed, how same thing with our produce. why did we pick this produce? Why did we pick produce from this certain region of California? Or why did we pick produce from, we're looking at getting produce from, across the oceans.
Yeah.
And same thing with our bananas. And, everybody thinks they're all the same, but when you find something that you want to stick to, at one point in my career, I bought a whole blueberry farm.
Wow.
And that was, to me, those were those milestones where you're like, wow. Because when we look back, we're like, okay, we just have blueberries, but how many blueberries can go through in a year? And then realize how much does a farm produce? And then we're like, we need to buy the whole farm. So we buy the whole farm, the whole crop of the farm.
Wow. Yeah. So just that transparency and moving towards that. And, of course, don't have to reveal anything that you do. You're trying to keep a trade secret. But with that, Mijo, thank you so much for joining us today. And where can people find Beyond Juice? Where are your locations at?
We're in Cleveland, Ohio, metropolitan Detroit, Michigan. There's probably a dozen cities there. And by the end of the year or first quarter of 2022, we'll be in Naples, Florida.
Beautiful. Awesome. Getting there and expanding. And congratulations on all the success. And again, and happy anniversary to you and Pam.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks again for checking out the Restaurant Growth Podcast presented by 7 Shifts. We're so grateful to our listeners, and we'd love to hear from all of you. Send us an email to podcast@7shifts.com and check us out on social. We're at 7 Shifts on all platforms. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next week.